Hello, it's Victor Dadash. I hope you're having an awesome day so far. Today, I want to talk about something very important if you want to be successful, and that is the need to take 100% responsibility for your life. Now, the most successful people take 100% responsibility for their lives. Those that don't take 100% responsibility for their lives usually are not as successful. And there's a tendency in a lot of human beings to blame other people, circumstances, their bosses, their wives, their husbands, their family, the government, the president, for the bad things that happen to them. And they don't like to take responsibility for their actions. And this has been going on since the beginning of time. When Adam and Eve fell in the Garden of Eden, did they take responsibility for what they did? No. Adam blamed Eve, and Eve blamed the serpent. And this has been going on ever since. Now, the thing is, what happens when you don't take 100% responsibility for your life is you become a person who has what's called an external locus of control. You feel that outside forces, outside people are responsible for everything that happens to you. And when you start thinking that way, you won't take the necessary actions to become successful because you start thinking, why should I bother? Other people are responsible for my success. And you don't become solution oriented. And as a result, because you don't become solution oriented, you don't take the necessary actions required to become successful, you don't have that success. Now, when you take 100% responsibility, you start saying to yourself, I'm ultimately responsible for what happens to me. I have what's called an internal locus of control. I feel that it's inside me to be able to take those actions necessary to become successful. And successful people always believe they are ultimately responsible for their success. Now, you want to look at it at a certain equation called E plus R equals O. And what that means is that E, which is the event that happens to you, plus R, which is your response, will determine O, which is your outcome. So your outcome is not determined solely by the event that happens to you. It's also determined by how you respond to that event. So that is why very often the same event will happen to two people, yet they will have different outcomes because they will have different responses. Two people might get stuck in that same traffic jam. One person might let the traffic jam get to them. They will start getting angry and frustrated. They will say, oh man, why does this always happen to me? I am the most unlucky person in the world. Life stinks. The other person will be relaxed, calm. They'll be listening to music. They'll be listening to their favorite podcast. They'll be drinking their coffee, and they will be in a good mood. They will say to themselves, I'm still alive. Life is good. And eventually the traffic jam will let up. These two people have different responses and have different outcomes, even though it's the same event. It's also the reason why two people might grow up in a tough situation. They may grow up in the inner city and have different results because one person will say to themselves, man, I'm poor. It's a slum. Bad things happen all the time. I cannot be successful, and they may wind up turning to a life of crime. They might deal drugs, for example. Whereas another person might say to themselves, yes, it's an inner city neighborhood with lots of crime, but I can overcome this. I'm going to study hard. I'm going to become a successful doctor or lawyer or even an entrepreneur. And because that second person chose a different response, that person had a different outcome from the first person who chose a life of crime. Again, it's not just the event that happens to you, it's how you respond to that event. And that will determine ultimately your outcome. So I will conclude by saying, if you want to be successful, you need to take 100% responsibility for your life. Because remember, it's not just the event that happens to you, it's your response to that event. And that's where your power lies. If you choose a good response, you'll have a better life. If you choose a bad or negative response, you're going to have much more likely a negative outcome. So remember, if you want to have a better, more successful life, take 100% responsibility because you will have a more powerful, more successful life. You will become solution-oriented. You will feel that you have an internal locus of control, and you will make a lot more money and be a lot more successful. So those are my tips for today. I hope you got a lot of value. If you did, feel free to subscribe to my channel below. This is Victor Dadash signing off. Have yourself a wonderful day. Take care.